Win or Die Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Recca, here with my co-host, Ride for Life 3.
How is everybody? What's going on?
And this week's guest is Catalyst from Wham.
How you doing, everybody? Glad to be on the podcast, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry that Casey couldn't be here tonight. He's a great guy, and wish we could spend a little time and talk the talk, as they say. So really happy. Thank you guys for having me on.
Well,
Absolutely, dude. We're
thanks for
happy to
being
have you
on.
as well.
And like Catalyst did say, Kay Slay is not going to be able to make it tonight. We'll have him on in a future episode.
Yeah, we were excited to have him, but he had some personal issues going on. I think he had to go to work early or something. So we definitely plan to have him in the future, and we show a huge shout out to him. But yeah, so we're gonna still, chug through this and talk about everything we got going on, as well as the huge finals coming up.
Okay, so let's just start off. We're gonna, we have Catalyst on from Wham. Catalyst, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to our, to our audience, and tell us a little bit about your journey in the world of Battlefield.
Well, I started playing Battlefield, I guess, like with a lot of people. I played the single player of Bad Company 2, which was an incredible experience, but I wasn't allowed to play multiplayer back then. So I really got into the grid of what Battlefield was and the multiplayer experience in Battlefield 3. Played Battlefield 4, and of course now I played the entire life cycle of Battlefield 1. And I actually didn't start playing competitively until about 5 months ago. I mean, nobody really knows Wham. Nobody really. I mean, I remember the first podcast that you guys did. Riot's trying to find something to say about us, and I remember him struggling a little bit, which I found funny. But you know what? That's kind of something that we embrace. We're. I'm very proud of myself and my team with how far we've come in just 5 months or so of competitive experience, and you see us around and you know who we are, but we're kind of considered, I guess, one of the randier teams around. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it kind of gives us the connotation that maybe it's not as good as the rest of the teams, but and kind of downplay us a little bit. But once teams gets to know us and they get to play us, you realize that these guys are really good guys, and they play hard. They don't back down from anybody. They don't dodge, and they're really fun to play with and against. And I'm really proud of my team for that and that kind of reputation that we've built as we've gone from different leagues. Win or Die is not the first league that we've been in, but so we've had quite a competitive journey, starting with leagues that are kind of the enemy around here in this community, the bad side, as some like to say. But we've had quite a journey, and in 5 months we've done a lot of things, especially coming from a platoon that just played ops. And I think one of the hardest things to do is to kind of shake that mentality, that pub mentality, and then go completely into competitive head first, and then get as far as you have. So as I said, I'm really proud of Wham and where we are now, and I'm also happy that we've met so many amazing people, amazing players along the way. So, and it can really only go up for here, as we find ourselves 4 or 5 months away from Battlefield 5.
Yeah, man, and it's gonna be a rager. I can definitely tell you the build up is real. But we're not far off from the next release, and everybody's gonna hit the floor running, and it's going to be crazy. I mean, there's going to be multiple leagues that are already active, that are already planning on jumping right into BF5, so you know that the multiplayer community is going to blow up automatically. And that, we're not leaving anything to chance. We're making sure we're here to stay.
Yeah, we are definitely happy to have Wham on board at Win or Die. You guys participated in the Tier 12 Conquest tournament that we have going on right now. And, you guys have been in other leagues in the past. How do you think Win or Die, the competition, stacked up against maybe some of the other leagues you've played in previously?
Am I allowed to name leagues directly, or I have to bounce
Yeah, you
around
can
it?
You
All
can
right.
name
Well,
them
I
off
mean,
directly.
all right. So, we started off in Tier 1, and of course, the kind of the connotation around, I guess, I don't want to say the community as a whole, but the kind of the community that we surround ourselves in is that that league doesn't have as good of teams as the other leagues. And although that may be true, I think each league definitely has its up and downs. But one of the things that I think Win or Die has over those leagues is the rule set. The more you kind of branch out, and I think, I can speak a little bit more on this than anybody because I feel like Wham is one of the very few teams, apart from the teams that we already have in Win or Die that were in the first couple seasons of Tier 1. We're one of the few teams that really have branched out, and we've kind of escaped, kind of some of the rule sets and things in Tier 1 that are kind of head scratchers to some other competitive players on this side of the competitive world, if that makes sense. So, definitely, I like the rule set here, and I think the competition is really, really good. It's a little bit more organized in the sense of tournaments. I know CFL does, I guess seasons, every 4 or 5 weeks, every month or so. But I like the tournament structure. It definitely adds a level of, I guess, weight to the performances that you wouldn't really get anywhere else.
Well, not only that, but you also have to remember because it's a single elimination tournament, you have one opportunity to make it to the next round. And whereas, Tier 1 and a bunch of the other leagues, they all do kind of like seasons where they have multiple matches, they add up the points or, do however many wins, and then have a semifinals and finals. We don't give you that opportunity. You can, in those leagues, if you lose first game, you can make up for it in second and third games. But here, if you lose first game, you got to wait till the next tournament. And that really kind of, I feel like it pushes people to bring their A game because as much as it sucks, being on the
Yeah.
losing side sucks. You know what I mean? So I think that people would, they amp themselves up more for it because they know that they don't have a cushion to fall on.
One thing I think is cool is that the champion of each of our tournaments, they have to be undefeated. So you have to win, you have to continue to win, and if you lose, you're out. And so every champion we've ever had has went undefeated in that tournament, and that's an achievement.
Right.
hmm
I agree.
Yeah, definitely. Imagine. Wham got to play PT first, which imagine drawing that team first. You can imagine how happy we were to play them. I'm just kidding. Love PT. Met a lot of friends with them. What's even worse, imagine playing PT in one of the first 3 weeks of being a competitive platoon. Like I remember back in January, we played PT for the first time, and we got our asses absolutely handed to us. It
Right.
was not a fun experience, and Blitzkrieg will be the first to bring out the screenshot of him, quote unquote, making me go negative on 3 weeks of Battlefield competitive experience. Um, but definitely, I can just agree with that. I always like the big match feeling, and I think that's something that Win or Die does better than anything else. My experience in Tier 1, of course, there was a tournament. We played 16 or something teams, and then, of course, due to some circumstances, I'm not sure that you guys know the story, and we don't necessarily have to get into that, but there was some rule fuckery, if I'm allowed to say that, going on.
Yeah.
And Wham got it was a shifty situation, but apart from that, I think Win or Die does the big game feel better than any other league right now.
Yeah, and we're definitely
Thanks.
going to get that big game feel with the finals that's coming up, and we're definitely excited about that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But back to Wham, are you guys, we have the Tier 5 Domination Tournament coming up. Are you guys planning on joining that?
We are. I personally have formed a T5 team just for this tournament called RM. We have a bunch of Wham players on that, but Wham is giving out a second team to play as well, and I know Gingeria is running that team, so not sure about the final roster on that, but in terms of pure Wham teams, there is going to be one, but there is also going to be another team, RM, which you might have heard the name float around a couple of times over the past few days that have
Yeah.
a bunch of players from Wham and EV, and that's going to be the team that I'm personally going to be playing for, but of course I'm rooting for my teammates that are on the actual WAM team to do well.
Yeah, and then, the fact that everybody's still staying involved, staying in the community. I know Battlefield 1 is dying, especially with Battlefield 5 right around the corner. But everybody who has gotten involved, for the most part, all of these teams are staying. Like, they're not coming in and playing for a season or so and then everybody's bouncing out. The community is growing and more people are joining, and that's exactly what we're looking for. That's what we're trying to bring to everybody. We're trying to involve as many people as possible to make it the most engaging and fun experience anybody's ever had.
Yeah, we definitely have some big plans once Battlefield 5 drops. We're going to do a lot more tournaments. We're going to, move to different regions. We also have a few different ideas to keep people more involved. If you lose the first round, that you're not going to be sitting for as long. You could be sitting for 4 weeks till the next tournament. And we're going to maybe do some intermittent tournaments in between the big ones so teams can stay involved. So we're definitely looking forward to the new launch of the new game. And let's go ahead and let's talk about this Tier 12 Small Conquest tournament that we have going on. It's been a lot of fun so far. We just completed our semifinals this weekend, and we had two really exciting matchups, and one had a little bit of controversy in it. But let's go ahead and let's review them. We had the first matchup was PT versus RZ, with RZ coming out on top.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I want to point out about this T12 tournament that we've had so far is the fact that every matchup we have had has turned out to be a 2-0 victory by the winning team. And that followed through right into the semifinals with PT and RZ facing off against each other. And PT, they struggled. The first game, they looked phenomenal. I mean, they looked good. They weren't really winning their gunfights as effectively as they wanted to. They were struggling a little bit in holding the 3-cap. They did get 3-capped for a little while, which really dampened their points. And in the end of game 1, they were down by only 45 points. But if you look back, the flag points were not what they lost by. They had the same amount of flag points as RZ. Where they struggled was their kills. RZ ended up being able to push up on top with, playing well with their gun game, playing their positions well, and that's what pushed them to that first victory.
Yeah, I definitely think you could see that as the story over the first match in Amiens specifically. You can memorize strats and you can remember to go to certain places on the map and do this at this time, but if they capture this flag, you go ahead and do this. But you still need to win the gunfights, and I think RZ has definitely been the more active platoon, I guess, as together than PT has, because I'm not going to call it rust, because I don't think that's exactly what it was, but I definitely think that RZ over the course of the entire match itself was able to run down PT, which is why the score on the second map, Suez, was a little bit more lopsided before the controversial ending occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the controversial ending was that a player from PT, Blitzkrieg.
Well, hang on. Before we go into that, let's talk about game 2, because I want to discuss the game before we drop the white flag. So game 2 started off strong. PT came out, guns blazing. They got right over to C flag. They had a good push, but then they started running into some issues, and overall it came down again to some players were having a bad day, other players weren't winning their gunfights, and ultimately RZ was able to overcome them. But then that's where the issues started, which now I will give it back to Mike and he will continue.
Well, a player got kicked from the server. That player was Blitzkrieg. PT was down at the time. They were down pretty bad.
Not pretty bad. They were down by 60 points.
60 tickets in the wrong direction. Right. I know RZ had several players that were kicked from the server in the first match and in the second match, but they were able to overcome that by getting maybe a sub in or getting that player to re-enter the server. PT, when they had a player get kicked from the server, a lot of their guys kind of at that point said, you know what, we're done. And they left. Fuck it. They left the server. Some of the guys have come forward and said, you know, it was a lost cause at that point, so we just accept the loss. And they were definitely gracious in the loss. You know, they said, you know, we lost. It's a done deal. Congratulations to RZ. And they move on to the finals. It was definitely an exciting matchup to watch. I was really enjoying that.
I definitely agree. And, you know, the biggest issue we had with this, and, you know, some players jumped to conclusions, others, you know, started claiming that, oh, they rage quit, blah, 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 blah. You know, Blitzkrieg got kicked. For some reason, he wasn't able to get back in. So the assumption was that somebody had booted him and he was now banned from the server and couldn't get back into the game, which that wasn't the case. But we also do know that with that update that week, there were some server issues. We were having some problems during the matchups. So anything could have happened. We don't really know the direct cause of what did occur, but it is what it is. They accepted the loss, like you said. They held the white flag, and, you know, they congratulated RZ, and now we move forward. You know, we're all still friends here, and we're obviously happy for PT that they've been a part of the community. They are a well-known team. They have a good quality base of players, but at the same time, you know, they were off their game, and it happens to everybody. We obviously hope they come back. We hope they continue to play in the future, but it's just how the dice rolls. Sometimes shit goes bad.
Let's just go ahead and say this. They still have a chance to become champions if EV and RZ both no-show next week.
This is very true.
PT for champion. I'm calling that now. I'm going to bribe leaders to get
See,
PT
that's
the
not true, though, because if that were the case, then we would have PT face off against Oxygen, and whoever wins that game would get the trophy.
That's a good point. See, the drama, it's always there.
I mean,
and that's what makes it fun.
It does make it fun. But the Discord chat turned into, I guess, like a Telemundo broadcast with all the the trash talk that was flung after the game, because the conception of, or I guess the perception of RZ is that, you know, PT left the match early because, you know, just they were losing, not because, you know, one of their players got kicked initially, and that was kind of the snowball that started the, okay, well, we can see, let's wave the white flag. But I definitely think that it was a server issue. For me personally, I have lagged out of lobbies and out of chat parties more in the past 3, 4, 5 days than I have had, I guess, in about a month or so of being home. You know, I'm not wired at my house. I'm got Wi-Fi because I'm not at school.
Right.
So the first couple weeks that I were home, it was completely fine, but over the past couple of days, it's just been absolutely atrocious, and I've wanted to throw my PlayStation off my balcony. It's been that bad. So I definitely think that server issues definitely had a lot to do with it, but you got to commend PT for the gracious attitude that they had, and they conceding the match, and just being really good sports about it. So whether you like PT or you don't, you really need to applaud them for that sportsmanship that they showed, just conceding the win, even though when they really did have a very, very good case to have the match be redone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and, you know, in the outcome was RZ advances, and like you were saying, with the server issue, with you having it, I've had issues with it over the past couple of days with lagging, not being able to jump over obstacles. I've lagged out of games. I've been kicked out of chat parties, and I know that DICE did come out and say that they were putting out another update. I think the update was either yesterday or today, which I believe was fixing the issues that they were having, which they weren't giving direct quotes to the exact issues they were having. They were just kind of giving a very large spectrum of ideas that problems occurred and that they had to fix them. So it could very well have been a server issue, but at this point there's no turning back. You know, we're going to keep pushing forward. We're going to move into the finals, and, you know, obviously thank you, and yeah, let's see what happens.
I mean, the people who got to watch that match were definitely the winners, because it was watching BF1 being played at a very high level, two really good teams going at it, and it was enjoyable. So let's move on to the other semifinals matchup we had, which was EV versus Oxygen.
This game was a very good game as well. Game one was a little bit of a struggle for Oxygen. If I can remember correctly, Oxygen started a man short, right?
Yeah, I believe so. That was the case.
Yeah, Oxygen started a man short. I believe that they had a man short for most of the matches until the end. But I can't remember off the top of my head. But regardless, they really struggled in taking advantage of flag positions. They were really struggling on holding the flags, and they also were struggling with. They got hit with fog, and their strong point was having, air support, and they didn't have it because of the fog, and they didn't plan. I don't think they planned on that happening. I don't think they wanted that to happen, but that definitely played a factor in the outcome. And after game one, EV ended up winning by, it was 376 to 500. Even though we weren't going off of the points, that's a big gap for, a game like that. And they struggled, but in game two, you definitely saw a different side of them. You saw them step up and really push forward, because they ended up, even though they still lost, they ended up only losing by 37 points. And that really showed that they got something going for them. They are definitely not a team to sleep on, because EV is a very strong team too. And I know EV were struggling. They've lost a lot of players recently, so they had every player that is on their roster playing, and that's all they had. They had no backups. They had no subs. If they lost somebody, they were playing a man down. But they pushed through, and they ended up overcoming Oxygen.
I'm going to give what we call in the business what we call a hot take. I'm going to go ahead and say that even though we knew EV was such a strong team, and they've been a strong team for a while, I'm going to go on record as saying they are one of the most overlooked teams in the community that we've had for the past 5-6 months, or however long they've been a team. Because as you were saying, Ride, they had lost players, and some of those players were actually playing against them in this match, which is really, really interesting. I've been talking with Legit and Alpha and Airstrike, and they were saying maybe they've been talking themselves down a little bit, and if that's the case, I think that's really smart. You want to give the opposition the impression that you're vulnerable and that you can be beaten.
Right.
But even with what if they consider a lesser team than they could have put forward a couple of months ago, they played like they hadn't lost a step. And that to me shows that they've always been even stronger than they were, on Saturday or Sunday or whenever they played. It shows that they've always been that strong of a team, and I feel like they really haven't gotten enough credit. And I think that they definitely, if there was any doubt of how strong a team or how much credit they are due, I think their performance against an Oxygen team that is strong in its own right, but the EV's performance really kind of put the nail in the coffin in terms of how they should be perceived throughout this league and any other league that they participate in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they've been an underdog, and I think in a couple of matches in this tournament, and they've come out on top. And they're definitely a slept-on team. They've been very successful here at Winter Die. Some of their players, because some of their players are former DF players, and DF has won a few tournaments here. So there's some players on their team like Finmint or Jets fan who have won multiple titles here at Winter Die Gaming Podcast and have definitely performed very well in all of our tournaments. So they are not a team to sleep on, and I've definitely been impressed by their play. But one of the things neither of you guys mentioned, but I can't believe we haven't said this yet, was Oxygen's decision, which will go down in history at Winter Die, to use 2 planes and to not use any armored vehicles there in that first match.
Well, like I was saying earlier, they had air superior power because EV didn't have the air support that Oxygen has. Oxygen had some solid pilots that they were able to effectively use, But again, map one, they got killed because they got hit with the fog. And those, in these maps, when that fog comes out, it's very hard to see. It's very hard to avoid obstacles, and it becomes almost unflyable. So at that point, they had to ground those planes and then move to tanks. And I think that transition ended up fucking them in the end because they couldn't transition quick enough and change that strategy properly to be able to address the situation that they were in, on top of
Yeah,
being a man short.
absolutely. I'm not quite sure what the decision-making process was like for Oxygen, but I can imagine it went something as, a Stevie for EV is a fantastic tanker, and he's very scary to play against. I can tell you that. I can tell you that from first-hand experience. But it's not like Oxygen had a lack of tankers. Matt Emili, I've known Matt Emili for a long time now, and he is a great tanker in his own right, but he's more of a light tanker. And, of course, if you're rolling up in a light tank to a heavy tank party, it's not going to go too well. It's not going to go too well for you, get you kicked out of the club and back to the respawn screen. So I'm sure that has something to do with the strategy. It's that they would have rather had something that plays to their strengths rather than to their weaknesses. But of course, you can't predict that Snoop Dogg is going to make an appearance on the battlefield and just make everything super foggy and smoky. So I mean, it's kind of I kind of equate it to like a decision at the end of a football game, an American football game, where it's the decision whether to call a timeout and ice the kicker or not do so, or go for it on fourth down. It's a miracle, or it's a great play if it works, but it's a terrible play if it doesn't work. So I'm not going to knock Oxygen as much as some others may for pulling out two pilots when they could have done one tank, one pilot. But I think in this case, as with the example I just gave, if this match had gone another way, we would have been praising them. But as it is now, we are kind of going against their choice.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to me is you lose that extra spawn point on the ground that the tank serves as a lot of the time. Because, you see it a lot of the time. A squad will get wiped, but the tank is still there. And then you could just spawn right in.
Tank.
Yeah, and that helps. If you're spawning in on a plane, you got to drop in, you got to parachute in. It takes a lot longer. It's not nearly as effective.
Yeah, but at the same time, having those pilots on map start, you're able to effectively get to those flags. You have one person come in, you have him jump in the plane, drop somebody off at sea. All of a sudden, everybody else spawns in. You got a couple people who squad hop to jump over. One person from another squad will come into your squad, spawn on you, and then go back to their squad so they can all spawn on him. All of a sudden, you got 8 guys at sea in the first 40 seconds of the game, and now the opposing team has to approach that situation like, hey,
But you could do that.
All of you to be there.
You could do that with one plane.
Right. No, I understand that, but at the same time,
you don't need two for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, and of course, I'm not the ultimate authority on this. I mean, this was Wham's first T12 Conquest game that we've ever played, and like I said, imagine playing PT in your first ever T12 Conquest game. So I really can't give any other insight as far as strats are concerned, because Wham is primarily T12, T16 front lines, and now more T5 Dom. So it's not exactly our forte, but from what I was able to decipher by watching what happened over the course of the game, I keep going back to the same example. It would have been great if it succeeded, but it's bad because it didn't.
Right.
And, I would be amiss if I didn't mention that behind the scenes there was a little talk. I'm So Legit definitely keeps bringing it up, showing the screenshots on our Discord channel, that Oxygen was feeling either very confident or was trolling them. I don't know. But they had said to EV, we are going to spawn trap you. And
here's the thing with that. There were some talks before the podcast tonight. Chief Aaron was talking, well, hey, we were just joking with y'all. You guys are taking this too seriously. And I personally don't think that card can be played. If you read the screenshots, sure, Savage Fugitive is making said lulz or something before. He said, we're just adding fuel to the fire. And of course, Chief Aaron is going on record. It's like you can't have one person, speak for the entire platoon. But that one person that was speaking happened to be the leader of Oxygen.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't. You can't play that. Oh, we were just joking card, especially after the fact, especially after your team was the one that got spawn trapped. And of course, I'm not purposely trying to knock any team. But come on. I mean, you can't. It's like slapping your older brother and then going and crying to mom when the older brother smacks you back.
Beats you.
It
Exactly.
just does not work that way. And of course, as I was trying to get across the point, is that things can be misinterpreted over text all the time. All
Yeah,
the time.
because
It's
there's no
not like
emotion behind it.
there's no
You can't-
emotion. You can if this was said in a voice chat, the connotation of the voice could be completely different, but because it was said over Discord chat and already the pre-existing heat between the two teams, Oxygen having some former EV players removed only maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks prior, that's still a fresh wound. I definitely think that it was a move by Oxygen that backfired on them because it definitely got Legit fired up, and it got the rest of Legit's team fired up as well.
Right.
Yeah, they definitely
Yeah.
used it as fuel to, play as best as they can. And so it definitely backfired on Oxygen, whether they were joking or not. You don't want to put that out there, because then if it ends up where you don't spawn trap that team or even lose to that team, you got definitely some egg on your face.
Yeah. And obviously, I want to make it known that we're not talking direct shit on anybody. This is just talk. We're just discussing what has occurred, what has already happened. We're not here judging anybody, and we respect everybody, and we obviously hope that everybody continues to compete in Win or Die. So big shout out to Oxygen for competing and being
of course.
involved, and
Absolutely.
we do appreciate you being a part of this.
And
And
of
you did
course,
make it to the semifinals. I mean,
Exactly.
you gotta that
Exactly.
proves something right there.
and of course,
we
let
me say this real quick. I like the Oxygen team. We're throwing a lot of shade at them right now, but like Ride said, they made it to the semifinals. They had some strong wins in this tournament. My team got eliminated the first round. So who am I to talk? But that's what we're doing here. We're analyzing the different decisions. Some, you're going to make some decisions that work. You're going to make some that don't. And if you make a decision that, or in your strategy that doesn't work out, we're going to definitely highlight it and say, maybe next time do it different. But definitely congratulations to them for even, making the semifinals. That's definitely a good job on their part. But, when you lose, like LeBron James right now, he's in the finals. They're getting crushed. And everyone's,
checking the score of the game as you speak.
everyone's
What's
talking.
the score?
Everyone's, oh, Cleveland's terrible. They're in the finals. So it's kind of a situation like that. Oxygen made it to the semifinals. So, definitely props to them.
Shout out to them.
But here we are. We're left with RZ and EV now for the finals. That's going to be played on June 16th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're definitely looking forward to that. Ride for Life 3 will be doing the commentating on the live stream. But let's dig into that matchup and let's see, what we expect to happen. What do you guys think we're going to see there?
Go on, Catalyst. You lead off.
Wow. I mean, based on what I've seen so far, I think RZ is a team that's definitely on the top of your game. But if this tournament has shown us anything, you cannot throw EV away and say, well, they don't have a chance. I believe Money was the one that said that they have a chance to win, but they're going to need to play perfectly. I'm not going to give them that small margin of error. They're going to have to play extremely well. But one thing that I do know about this EV group, from playing against them, playing with them, and now being able to sooner going to be able to play with them as teammates, they are incredibly smart. They have some of the best, I guess, brains in terms of figuring out strengths and weaknesses that I've ever seen. You have to give your hand to Legit and Alpha and Airstrike, that EV leadership, for being able to really lead this team. So I wouldn't expect this to be anything less than a close match, even closer, dare I say, than the RZ PT match. But even that would be hard. So you know what? I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say it's going to be along the same lines of the RZ PT match. I'm definitely not going to dethrone the chance that EV is going to get blown out in any shape or fashion.
I got to add the fact that, some people are saying that RZ is going to blow out EV. They say that they're going to get spawn trapped or they're going to get beat by 100 plus points. It's really going to come down to EV's players. Right now they're struggling with keeping players active and keeping a roster. Like we said earlier, they had 12 people. That was it, and it takes 12 to play in, a T12. So if they lose one player, they don't have somebody else to fill that in. So it's really going to come down to, can they get everybody here with no subs and everybody play to a near perfect game to overcome them, because they're going to have to bring their A game, because RZ is not a team to sleep on either. They got their shit down. They have experience. They know how to play the game. And they have to, EV have to really step it up. But I think they have an opportunity. They do have a chance. It will be a small window, but they do have a chance to get through there, and maybe they'll come out on top.
Yeah, I'm just really hoping that we get our first matchup here that goes 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
How exciting is that going to
Absolutely.
be if we are in the 3rd round here? It's do or die for the championship. I'm really, I'm hoping that's what happens.
Right.
RZ is an excellent team, as they proved. They beat PT, and that in itself speaks volumes. I'm personally not that familiar with a lot of their players. They're not active on the Discord channel. A lot of their players don't necessarily even speak English.
Right.
We will have a stream going with a Spanish broadcaster as well for their fans. And
Right.
EV definitely should, they have a chance. You're here, you have a chance. You could win it, and they would shock the world,
Right.
as I like to say.
Yep. And another thing I do want to bring up, we did discuss this, and we have decided that following the finals and in the future, from now on, all of the tournament matchups, what we're going to do is, following the game, we're going to bring 1 or 2 players from each team in to discuss, what just occurred, or whether, if the losing team doesn't want to attend or does want to attend, that's up to them. But we're going to give those players the opportunity to come in here after that game and speak firsthand, right then and there, exactly what happened. Tell us, just like anything else that happens in any other sport, we want to get that firsthand experience, words out of their mouth right after it happened. And we're excited to finally bring that to you guys. So definitely be sure to pay attention to the end of the broadcast for this finals match, because it's not going to end right on the game. We're going to get into an after party type of thing, a post game mashup. So yeah, be excited, be ready. It's going to be kick ass.
Okay, I got some
That's a really good idea.
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but we have some breaking news here. I just got an alert on my phone that says Muni and Blitzkrieg are thinking about dropping out of the upcoming Tier 5 tournament. I just wanted to say that they are not allowed to. They're definitely going to be playing.
You are not allowed to not play.
So,
But, yeah.
you guys are in.
All right,
Oh.
now, before we start winding down and ending our podcast, how about we go through a couple of the questions people are asking, see if we can answer a couple of questions.
Sure.
Well, we let's just say that the people that have been watching the live stream and commenting, we have Blitzkrieg, we have Dante, we have Jon Snow,
Jessica Swalls.
Jessica Swalls was there. So if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, that you want to put forward, or any comments, we'll definitely take a look at those right now.
Well, here, I see one right now. Jessica Swalls asks, how many tickets do you think EV will beat RZ by, hypothetically speaking?
Overall, or have we chosen? I don't think we've even chosen maps yet, have we?
No, they have not
Or
chosen.
have the teams?
They
Okay,
have not chosen
so
maps yet.
So as it stands then right now, and we'll go based on per game, do a 50-point spread, 100-point spread. Where do you think? Do you have a team that you favor? Do you have, somebody? What's your prediction on the turnout?
I can see this. Obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, well, this can only go one of two ways, but it really can go only one of two ways. Either blowout or it can be a closer match. I think it's going to be a closer match than a lot of people think. If hold on, let me read how many tickets do you think EV will be RZ by? I think RZ will be EV by maybe anywhere from 50 to 150 tickets over the combined matches, and maybe even more so if the match obviously goes to that third map. But if you think about it, 100 or anywhere from 50 to 150 really are close games. So I think that the matches really are just going to be really close, and and I think that everybody wants this match to be close. It's not just like a predetermined thing like this match will be. Exactly. For entertainment purposes, you want this match to be the best match through the entire tournament. Although, as Blitzkrieg is saying in the chat right now, PT versus RZ was the funnest match that he's ever played, and it was definitely one of the more exciting ones to watch so far.
Absolutely. Shout out to Blitz, obviously, for participating and being a personal friend as well as the Win or Die friend. Here we do have another question here from Chris Hunton. I noticed the T5 Dom is basically ESB rules, stating no paid DLC. Can we also ban the Annihilator thing?
Well, I'll go on.
I'm all for it.
I'll go on record right now of banning the Annihilator out of that tournament. There's really no place in the tournament for that weapon.
I definitely, if you didn't ban that, I might as well just have pulled out from it entirely, because as getting more experience in T5s, and Ride for Life is with I9, so he definitely has T5 experience. The Annihilator might be the most overpowered weapon in the game in a T5 setting, next to the auto-loading marksman.
I thank God that I play ESB rules set, because I don't think I can handle any DLC weapons. It would be a completely different approach to the situation. Like, I'm so accustomed to playing ESB rules, knowing that I'm either going to face off against a Hellriegel, a Bar, or a 1835 extended. Those are the three weapons that any comp player uses, because those are the most effective weapons. So, adding all of the new weapons in would be a completely different atmosphere. You would have to relearn certain situations, because certain guns, if somebody came in and you was using the RSC versus the the extended, I would have to play my situations differently. I'd have to handle the situations differently and approach it differently. So that changes a lot of the aspect of the game. So it would be interesting. I think that we should look into maybe letting certain weapons in, but still banning a lot of the weapons, but giving people a little bit more variety without, while also keeping a level playing field.
I always like a variety in weapons, because to me it's like rock, paper, scissors, right? If someone's using a certain kind of weapon that's beating the one you have, then you go pick up a weapon that can defeat your opponents, right? But I think in a tier 5, it's really, I like the strict rules, because it's really about one-on-one battles, and I don't want that to be decided by an overpowered weapon. Maybe
right.
in a front lines tournament, or even more so in a conquest tournament.
Conquest, right?
We could definitely we have a little bit of looser rules, but to me tier 5 definitely should be strict as could be, and that's the route we're going to take.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think especially with how, I guess, we talked about, the Hellriegel and the auto-loading extended and the Bar Storm, or I know a few people that actually play with the Bar Trench instead, but besides the point, the auto-loading extended is, for my money, the best weapon in the game, and it can compete with both those weapons. Maybe not so much the Bar Storm. Yeah, maybe not so much the Bar Storm at its effective range, but definitely I've been put down by auto-loading extended while using a Hellriegel more times than I could count. So I think that even though some people may want a greater variety in the weapon choice, I don't think you're really going to see any more variety in the weapon choice, just because of how powerful those weapons are, and especially
Right.
in a T5 settings where you know anybody could be coming from anywhere. It's almost like Rainbow Six Siege with Battlefield 1 weapons. You know, it's very very tactical,
Absolutely.
and it's a lot of fun to play. Um,
And then the other thing you got to remember, in T5s, it's not like T12s where you have those other players around you. You know, if one man goes down, that can determine the whole game. You know, if your squad gets wiped and you get trip capped in a Dom game, and you got 5 players, it could be very, especially on Ballroom Blitz. You get tripped on Ballroom Blitz, you're done. You're not going to be able to come back from that because the spawn there, you're going to get trapped and you will never get out of that spawn. And those are key factors, especially in T5, you have to consider. You know, anything can change at any moment because you have to rely on 4 other people, yourself and those 4 people, and that's all you have. You don't have anybody else.
I see a lot of people making comments with Chris Hunton about different weapons, asking, it's not paid DLC. Are we going to allow this weapon or that weapon? And we will definitely put out a, if Black Vans hasn't
Full list.
already, a complete and list of the weapons that will be allowed. So definitely look to that up in the sign up channel of the Tier 5 to come up real soon. We'll have that up. We'll have that up tomorrow if it's not already.
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, I think we're, about out of time here as we're running up on about 50 minutes. But, obviously, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who's involved. A big shout out to Black Vans, Mike Recker for everything he does. Um, Catalyst, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it and had a lot of fun discussing everything with you.
Thank you for having me. I just want to quickly shout out Blitzkrieg as TSL's daddy per his request. And that's all the time we have, folks. Da, 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 get the nice top hat and the cane and
Yeah.
shimmy off stage. But
Yeah,
seriously, thank you so much for having me. And I know that, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, Wham is a young team. Sometimes we're considered, Randy. Many people don't know a lot about us, but I'm very proud of where we are, and I'm glad that we have this reputation that we do, and being able to do things like come on this podcast and participate with a lot of great teams, and it's very very moving for a lot of us, and it's something that we're very happy to do. I know I represent Wham when I say thank you for allowing us to participate in everything, and if we haven't played you yet, we look forward to playing with you and really just enjoying everything that Battlefield has to offer. So thank you, for everything.
well, thanks for coming on. Catalyst has his own YouTube channel, which we will drop a link in the description of this video. And as always, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and like the video and share it about, if you will.
Yes, also I want to take a quick second, even though Kaysley was not here, a big shout out to Kaysley. He will be attending
Hmm.
in some of the future podcasts. Um, Obviously, big shout out to everybody else. And make sure you tune in on the 16th because it's going to be one hell of a fight. And we're going to see who we're going to crown the champion. So this is Ride for Life. Thank you, everybody. And Mike?
All right, thanks everybody for listening. Winner Die Gaming Podcast. Later.
Have a good night, everybody.